now. We had a chat about a week ago now, just the beginning of the COVID lockdown, and we're just going to catch up again just for an update on sort of a new perspective on where business owners should be heading and what they should be looking at with thought in mind of potential income loss and how you can save money and things. So thanks, Andy, for dialing in.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, Rupert. It's, gosh, things have changed a lot in a week. They are just moving, rapidly. So, yeah, good to catch up and just go through some of these key points that we're seeing out there, and that customers are really paying attention to right now.
Cool. Okay. So we've kind of put together a bit of a list of things that business owners can look at.
Yep.
Tell us sort of in order. If I've got a business, what's the sort of first thing I'd want to be looking at today?
All right. Well, so some key. I guess the key message here is what do we have to do in order to what do we have to do to survive so that we can thrive in the future? Because what's happening right now is completely, it's unprecedented. It's gonna have a huge impact for a lot of businesses out there. So some key things. One, really important to call all of the customers that owe you money. Collect as much of that as you possibly can, and make payment plans with those customers that can't pay you right now. So absolutely crucial. Next thing to do is to make a list of your suppliers in order of who you spend the most with through to who you spend the least with. And, again, make contact with them, ask if they can help you over this time, whether they can give you some better payment terms, or possibly even some lower pricing for a period of time to give you some breathing space. So there's a couple of things just to start off with.
Are you seeing your clients sort of start to do that? Are you seeing these terms get pushed out maybe, or paid or deferred or paid over a certain amount of time?
Yeah, look, we're hearing customers are feeding back to us that a number of their suppliers are being really accommodating. And I guess one of the things that's happening at the moment is that not everybody is being negatively affected. Lots are, but also everybody's in a different financial position to start off with. Some people have a stronger balance sheet to be able to manage this this crisis. Others don't, and those ones that do have a strong balance sheet, they can be more flexible, and we are seeing people do that.
Yeah, and we spoke about this last time, but one of the key differences here with your business struggling is that it's not your fault, right? It's an external factor.
Yep.
So asking for help, the whole of New Zealand is asking for help at the moment. So really get in early and before it becomes an emergency, right? So
yeah, look, I think last week the thing that we were seeing was that everybody was adjusting, dealing with the shock, right? And managing that and managing all of the information. What we're seeing this week is that some of the reality is starting to set in, and it's really important that if you're going to be heavily impacted, that you take action, because taking action can make a difference in what your position is going to be like in the future.
Yeah. I guess one of the main expenses for businesses and people in general is rent. You've got any guidance around rent relief, and especially in terms of commercial leases and things?
Yeah, so obviously for many, one of your key suppliers is going to be your landlord, your commercial lease provider. So a couple of things there. One, if you've got a commercial lease in place, check to see if you have a no access and emergency clause. That's a standard clause in the Auckland District Law Society, current commercial lease edition. If you have that clause in there, speak to your landlord and see if you can make some payment plan with them. And if you don't have that clause in your lease, speak to your landlord anyway. It's worthwhile asking.
Yeah, I dialed into a fascinating webinar with the Law Society yesterday, and their message really was just come to an arrangement that suits both sides. So be aware that the landlord has a mortgage probably, and you have a business. So come to some sort of middle ground, and that will be the most understanding way that you can go forward, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a high empathy time I think we need in New Zealand.
Look, being kind. And look, one thing that is, gosh, it's so nice. You go out for your walk to get some fresh air during the day, and I don't know what it's like in your neighbourhood, but in my neighbourhood, people that would never have said hello and smiled are saying hello and smiling, and that's such a wonderful thing. So we want to hold on to that.
Yeah, I drove down to donate blood this morning. The first time I've been out since the lockdown started, and the 8-kilometre drive, I passed 2 cars coming the other way. Yeah. It's quite frightening at the moment. It's quite strange. Yeah. So let's talk about heading to the banks to talk about cash flow there. What's your suggestions around that?
Well, look, all of the banks have offers. And if you go to their websites, you can see what they're offering. There are overdraft facilities being made available. There's also the new loan scheme which has been released. And depending on your circumstances, definitely go and have a look and see what's available and see. Whether that's going to work. I definitely encourage you to, make sure that you talk to your advisor as part of that process before, just taking on a whole lot of debt. But there are lots of offers out there. So go check them out. And this is for the business, but also for you personally as well. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm really keen to see how those business loans start working. The government is 80% underwriting them or backing them. Yep. And so I know of someone that applied but had some losses in previous years, and so they didn't meet the criteria. So there was still that responsible lending income criteria. Yep. But I think what would have been a grey area and may have been declined previously will be much more embraced by the banks going forward. So it'll be good. Now the terms of that I think are 3 years, 3-year term. So it's going to be a high amount of repayments. But if it means you're still around in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, then that may be a cost that is worthwhile. So up to 500,000, isn't it?
Up to 500,000. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk to the residential side of things. We've got a page that we're constantly updating with what all the banks are offering. There is sort of a range of things from extending the term of your mortgage, which might save you a little bit of money, might free up a bit of money, to right down to mortgage holidays, which obviously frees up your entire payment. And I think the same goes with business in terms of it's a matter of figuring out what do you need to survive. So if you only need a couple $100, then term extension. If you need $500,000, then the business loan is kind of the end that you go to, I guess.
And I mean, another thing that we're seeing is that it's coming up tax time. So, for a lot of clients entering into an instalment arrangement with IRD for tax that you owe if you don't have the cash flow to be able to manage that. And IRD have reduced their minimum payment amounts around that. And that's something that that people can do themselves using their My IR login. It's a pretty simple process these days. So all of this, kind of comes down to, what is your business, what does your cash flow forecast look like? And the thing that I really want to emphasize is you really need to do one of these, and you need to factor in the things that have changed over the last couple of weeks. Having to close the doors for 4 to up to we don't know how many weeks.
Yeah.
If you're having to close your doors, what is the cash flow impact on that? What's the drop in income? The drop in income for some is going to be 100% over the close down period, and then is likely to be a significant percentage for the next year. A drop in your wage cost, if you've been able to negotiate that with your team over the next 12 weeks, what does that do to your cash flow? What does the wage subsidy do to your cash flow? Customers paying slowly and increased bad debts. And got something, just wanted to, Rupert, if you could put that up on the screen.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Show an example.
Let me see if this will come up. There we go.
Okay, so this is a cash flow forecast that we've recently put together for a client, and it's quite small on screen, but what it shows is that with all of those changes, except for customers paying slower, the cash flow here the closing balance was going to be 130,000 at the end of September. What we've done is we then have added an assumption in there that customers are going to pay slower, that 70% of customers are going to pay at 60 days, and that 30% are going to pay at 90 days. And what that does to the cash flow is it turns the closing balance at the end of September from being $130,000 positive to negative $157,000.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely crucial that everyone is looking at that cash flow and knowing what their position is, because you need to decide how much money you're willing to spend on keeping the business going. And you need to know how long you can actually do that with the resources that you have at your disposal. So really encouraging people to get clear on that, so that they can make a decision around that, so that it can give themselves as much certainty as possible, and also their teams as much certainty as possible.
Just, we did discuss this beforehand, but what are your usual assumptions in terms of late payers at 30-day and 60-day?
Well, I mean, what we normally look at is the business itself, and what that's been over the last 12 months. So every business can see what their trends have been. There is some industry information out there for small and medium sized business averages, but really they swing around a lot. But so what we're suggesting to people is that they run a couple of different assumptions. the assumption I showed you there is that 70% going to 60 days, and this particular example, that 70% was paying in 30 days. So you can run a few different assumptions, but I think it's prudent to allow for some slowdown. People are going to be paying slower.
By the way, just for those watching, you can ask a question. We're getting the questions come through. So if you've got a question about what we're talking about, feel free to throw it up on Facebook as well. So business assets, let's talk about that. I guess there are things that you could sell and things that you would never sell in a business. Have you got some examples or some ideas around that?
Yeah, so I mean, you may have some stock there that you may be able to sell, you may be able to dispose of. You may have some fixed assets. There might be some plant and machinery. There might even be I guess this is an opportunity to have a really good hard look at everything that your business owns, and decide whether you need to keep it right now. Obviously the stuff that's crucial for your operations, then you're going to need to hold on to that. But some clients have got extra vehicles there, or they've got equipment that is that they no longer need or use. And look, it might be really difficult to move some of that at this time. But remember, there are businesses out there that are booming in this particular time, and they may have a need for some of those things.
Had an interesting discussion with one of my clients, and they're a sort of a high-end landscaping kind of business. And I said to them, are you doing okay? And it's kind of a luxury expense. And they said, well, actually, everyone is planning on staying home for the next year. And those people that were going to Europe, to Italy with $30,000, holiday, they are now looking at doing landscaping. So there definitely are some interesting kind of business pivots, right? Or interesting business opportunities come up from this. Absolutely, yeah.
So the another thing that we talked about earlier on was just looking at your personal finances, and making sure that those are that where you stand with your personal finance. And there's a really good article that I saw up on the sorted.org.nz website, which was just a must read around COVID-19, and seven things to do right now with your money. So I encourage people to go and have a look at that. How long can you go as a business owner without any income? What does that look like for you?
I think that's going to be the hardest decision, right? Is at what point do you pull the plug? And the issue that we have is are we on lockdown for 4 weeks, or are we on lockdown for 12 weeks, right? So that is the decision. I think a lot of that will be talking to an advisor who maybe has a third-party business perspective on your situation.
Definitely. And it could be talking to a really good friend. I think it's important to talk to somebody, just to provide, just to be able to bounce some different ideas around and get some different perspective. In our businesses, we're responsible for lots of people. There's lots of suppliers, lots of customers and team members who are all depending upon you, and that's a lot of pressure. And it's really super important to look after the most important people in your life first. You do have to look after yourself. You have to look after your family, and in order to be able to move forward in the future, we have to make really good decisions now. And there's no point in burying yourself and everything that you've been working for, over the last X number of years, to not be able to move forward once this crisis, dies down. So we really want to make sure that that people survive through the crisis, so that they can grow and thrive in the future.
Yeah, I've heard of some really interesting pivots, and I'd be keen for people who are watching this to throw their ideas up. Whether it's just suddenly moving your business online when previously you didn't have enough time to do it, maybe, and suddenly you're at home a lot more than you used to be. I heard of an event company that had some trucks and some staff, and they were talking to the supermarkets about deliveries and what that sort of meant in terms of hygiene requirements and things. But they had this asset that they never would have done that before. But they're really interesting pivot there. So I'd be keen to for people to share their experiences and what they're doing at the moment, because that's the world we live in, isn't it?
Look, there are some great opportunities for a number of businesses to do some of that work on their businesses that they've been too busy running their businesses day to day to do that. I was on a video call yesterday with a system provider, so a job costing and management system that a number of different businesses use, and they're seeing a number of their prospective customers move forward that project, because some of their team, or a lot of their teams are at home and have the ability to be able to learn how to do this and get everything set up, so that when lockdown gets lifted, suddenly they're able to be much more efficient and operate a whole lot better. So
brilliant. All right, is that, have we covered everything that we've got on your list?
Yeah, that's I think that's everything that we was probably. There's one thing that we missed, which is super important, is just making sure that we keep up communication with our team members, and giving them the updates and the information about what's going on. And there've been lots of questions come up around how does the wage subsidy work? How do I deal with the employment issues? There's the information around that has got a lot better. You go to the COVID-19.gov.nz website, and the frequently asked questions are being updated around that. But just make sure you're in communication and looking after your team as much as you can.
Yeah, I think in terms of a mental health discussion, I mean, it's a long time if you're an employee and you're sitting at home and you're wondering whether you've got work or how things are going. 8 hours in a day is a long time to be thinking about that. And as a business owner, I know I'm super busy trying to organize things and pivot and work on marketing and things. And I can often forget that someone else in my company is sitting at home concerned and maybe not knowing as much as I know, and so not getting the comfort that I have, right? So something I've been working on in terms of communicating where the business is at, for better or for worse, just so everyone kind of knows where they're at. And Yeah, and obviously the wage subsidy adds a bit of a cushion in there. It's another discussion whether it's enough or not enough or whatever, but it's certainly a start. Yeah, so I think that communication is super important this time, really.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Hey, thanks, Andy, for that. We might get you back in about a week or two if things are rapidly progressing still. So yeah, we'll get you dialed in. Thanks for coming along today.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.